Okay, we are officially live, and then let me go live on Instagram. Perfect. All right, what's going on, guys? And welcome to another episode of Office Hours. Now, we were doing Office Hours bi-weekly, or weekly actually, but we decided to take a break, lock in, and make sure we put people on this platform that we think are people that you guys should definitely be tapped in with. So today's guest is somebody you guys are probably already familiar with, and if you're not, you definitely will be by the end of today. We have Yudu. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Nyla. How you doing?
I am well. I'm excited for this conversation.
Let's go.
Yes. Okay, let's just jump right into it. You've been in the music industry for a very long time. What are some of the biggest and earlier challenges that you've made or that you made and want to simplify for the business side of music?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, I started as a producer engineer in the DMV. I ran a recording studio called Avalon, and then my wife and I launched a studio called House Studios.
Yes.
And early on, what we saw was uh, people just didn't understand the basic parts of the business to be successful. So anytime people were collaborating, there was always tension. And so when we sold that and started 24/7 artists, that was our goal, was how do we educate everyone on the things that we wish we knew early on? And then how do we simplify those steps? How do we simplify those things?
So how did the venture from House Studios to 24/7 artists solve problems that you saw artists struggle with?
You know what? It's funny. Like when we had our studio spaces, we were locked into our four walls. And anyone who knew us back then to tell you, if you were in our studio, we took care of you. It was like home. But we were just so focused on what was going on in the building. I'll put my hand up and say, like, I wasn't aware of what was happening globally as far as like the indie artist movement. We
Mm.
took so many artists in house, no pun intended, that like once we sold the business and the pandemic happened, we found ourselves like connecting with more artists and more people making intros and more people needing help. And I was blown away by the number of people that didn't know basic things that I just thought so many more people knew. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, like, we're not in a position to help hundreds of people or even thousands. I think we can help millions of people the same way we were helping them in our building. So really the pandemic and the sale kind of aligned. We sold our business March 1st, 2020. The pandemic was 2 weeks later.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, so like that was a timing of everything, was like we literally sold our business. We had a little bit of a cushion, so like we weren't super stressed for like what do we do next. And in that downtime, I just found myself. It started with like calls, then it was like Zoom sessions, and then Clubhouse started popping, and I started getting invited to Clubhouse rooms. And I just remember every week I'd be like, "Yo, there's a lot of people who don't know like simple things," and I couldn't duplicate myself. Like everyone wanted, like, "Yo, big bro, how much for consultations? How much to help?" And I, no knock on anyone else, it feels weird to me to charge people to give them advice. I just, not my thing, especially with independent artists. I'd always rather they put that money towards actually building their careers. So my wife and I, like, if we could build a tech platform that replaced the experience and the education and the access people want with us, I think there's a business model there. And majority of the people won't ever pay for it. They'll just come like they're hobbyists, they're just trying. But for the
Yeah.
few people who are really serious, if we can make it super affordable, not only can we give them the education, but we can give them the tools to go and apply that education. And that's been our business since the pandemic.
Salute to you for that. I have a lot of respect for people who do things just off of the love, because obviously a lot of people charge for game. But I actually want to peel back a few things that you discussed. So you're in business with your wife.
Yeah, for sure. Like
That's
I, I'm in business with her. You said it right. She is the, if it were not for Vina, y'all know her as V. For those of you who know us, if it were not for V, we 24/7 wouldn't exist, because I enjoy this. Like if I won the lottery tomorrow, had unlimited money in my bank account, I would spend every day showing people how to build businesses and build careers, and like I enjoy it. I love doing it. I never
nice.
even thought of it being a business model. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and then like we'll figure out what to do next. We'll get into real estate, or we'll go to Africa. Like we'll do something in business, but I never saw the two as one and the same. And V was the one that was like, yo, you do. I think like if you do this for free, like you spend hours on the phone helping these artists, and like we had like major success stories in that time period. She's like, if you figure out how to do that and make money with it, then it's never going to feel like work. Then you really are in your sweet spot. So she's the brains behind it. And then I'm a very like A to B to C person. She's all the stuff in between. She's very much like, yo, I feel like that person's going through something. Yo, I feel like we should check in on this person. Yo, I don't think that person really understood what you told them. Like, reach back out and make sure they're good. I'm oblivious to it because I'm already like, all right, we talked about, hey, let's get the B. And she's
Right.
like the glue in between that. Even with our studio, that was the secret sauce, was beyond just coming to record. There was a sense of like belonging that she created that made people literally feel like, all right, this is my home. This is like where I'm supposed to be.
That is super dope. And you guys were based out of Maryland. What part, if you don't mind me asking?
So our first studio was off Rhode Island and 12th in DC.
Okay.
And then we moved out to Hyattsville, right by the Coca-Cola factory off BW Parkway.
Fire.
Um, and then we had a spot in New York, and we partnered with a spot in LA. So we expanded beyond DC, but we started in DC proper. But we grew up in Montgomery County. So, like, for the DMV
Nice.
folks, don't come for me. I've lived in DC, I've lived in Maryland, spent a lot of time in Virginia,
Yes.
PG, MoCo, seen it all,
Yes.
lived it all, done it all. So we
Yes.
are deep. But we actually were in Atlanta now. We moved to Atlanta 2018.
Okay, fire. Ooh, okay. Okay, I'm from Maryland as well. I'm from Anne Arundel County. So
Okay.
that's,
Yeah.
most, most counties gets respect for sure.
Our daughter went to school in Anne Arundel County, so we know that area all
Oh,
too well.
lovely. Okay, shout out to her.
Mhm.
But prior to you guys opening the studio and being like a communal hub for artists within the area, like what drove you to music?
I've told this story a couple times, and it's funny. Like, I ran track and field, and I actually ran for my country. I ran for Liberia, and I
Mm.
got hurt in 2008 training for the Olympics, and I had surgery. And while I was getting ready for rehab, and like, do I try again for 2012? Sports, it was fun to me, especially track and field. It wasn't my passion. And when I say passion, how I define that is it the thing you do when nobody's looking, or is it the thing you would do if you won the lottery? So my uncle, who's my mentor, big brother, I was asking him, I was like, yo, like, I feel kind of stuck, like 4 more years of training. Like, if you don't know, like, track and field, especially Olympic training, it's a different beast. I don't really know if I want to do that, but I don't know what I want to do next. And he asked me a question that changed my life. He said, if you won the lottery today, what would you do? And I was like, shit, no one's ever asked me that. Like, I don't know what I would do. Like, because if you go beyond, like, I'd buy the house, I'd buy the car, I'd buy the clothes, I'd get the J's, once you get past that buy list, what does an average day look like for you when you don't have to worry about working? And I'd never thought of life like that. And he's like, all right, well, I ask you another question. What do you do when no one's looking? And I was like, shit. Like, and I started thinking, I was like, I play music. And he was like, well, go figure out how to do that. And so I started at a recording studio. I went to 3 recording studios in DC. I won't name the other ones. They know who they are. And the first 2 basically like, nah, because I was like, yo, like, I'm just trying to learn. But I get it. Now as a business owner, like, I was this young kid off the street, probably looked like crap, like dusty, like, yo, I'm trying to come work for you. It's like, nah, dude. And the third studio I went to, they were like, yeah, we're not hiring right now. And I was like, yeah, I can't take no for an answer. So I just went back every day. I would clean, I would do runs. I basically was an intern, and I got so valuable that they gave me the key. They were like, all right, if you want to come in and just like run the studio, we'll teach you the business and teach you like the technical stuff. And then it went from that to like, we can't afford you, but if you want to like run the studio in the daytime, we can do a profit share on what you bring in. And that's
Lovely.
how like I met like your bro Money. Like, there were so many people in the DMV at that time: Tabby Bonet, Raheem Devon, Logic, Wale had just got his deal, Tone P, Mark Henry. Like, there was a bubbling of creatives in the DMV, and I had a studio. I was the only one. So my spot, not even house, pre-house at Avalon, became the spot where we were creating. We were cooking up and working on these projects. Black Alley, Mumbo Sauce, every go-go band you can imagine. I've worked with all of them.
Fire.
And then that studio closed, and I had this Rolodex of the DMV creative scene and no space. And we were blessed to be connected with somebody that owned a building in DC. And we worked out a partnership deal with them, and we moved in and we built up the studio rooms. And you got to understand, like, within the first month, we worked on a Raheem Devon record. We did Wale's project mixtape. We did Logic's first mixtape. Money would bring folks through every week. We had Pusha T. We had Rick Ross. Every week there was somebody at that studio, and it just became this hub. Right place, right time. Like for me to take any credit would be blasphemy. Like God definitely was like, y'all good. And then we quickly realized that like beyond just recording people, where we really added value was helping them beyond the music. So like, let me show you how to set up this LLC. Let me show you how to set up your PRO. Let me show you how to set up with Sound Exchange. Let me show you how to use a split sheet. Let me show you how to work with a lawyer to get your agreements in place with your producer. That's what people really started coming to us for. The recording was extra.
The recording was extra is crazy.
Yeah.
And even you saying like just right place, right time. That's not true. Like you worked for that. Got the profit share. That's amazing. Rubber Band, who's watching from YouTube, said profit share all the way.
Profit
Like,
share.
because a lot of people don't necessarily realize the opportunity when there's no dollar attached.
Yeah.
So shout out to whoever asked you that question. Like, what would you do? Your track coach, you said?
No. It's my uncle Bill. He's actually he's on my advisory board today. I don't make a major life move without a conversation with my uncle Bill, because those two questions changed how I looked at life forever, and it put us where we are today.
Man, shout out to your uncle Bill for real. I'm about to ask myself this after we finish this meeting. But okay, so what would you say are some essential tools that you think every independent artist should be using today to manage their career? Because a lot has changed from I would say like that early 2000s era to now 2010s.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do the shameless plug to get it out the way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We built our platform 24/7 artists, creative space, and we'll dive into that. But really, we built, I believe, the operating system, and there's so much more coming with it. But we built the operating system to help you get your business in place. So tracking your business info in one place, tracking your song info in one place. And then with some of the AI tools we're rolling out in the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to create legal agreements with your collaborators. You'll be able to create quick splits with your folks. And our secret weapon, which I'll share here first, we have a financial tool where you'll be able to basically like connect with investors, partners, and labels, get funding, and everybody
Wow.
get paid transparently, clearly, no issues, no dirty business. That's like the coup de grace that's coming. So like that platform, I would say is first. I got to put that out first. But beyond that, I feel like more than tools, there's like a combination of skills and tools that everyone in the industry should start getting familiar with, just because if you're not, I think you're setting yourself up long term for failure. Obviously, the standard is you need a really good distro, right? So like if you're putting music out on
You
Spotify,
need
Apple,
two
Amazon,
loss. You need
right?
two
Plug
loss.
number two Loss. We moved our entire catalog over to Two Loss. They were the first distro partner we listed on anything we've ever done. I just think they took the right approach as far as how they handle little things like being able to assign your collaborators by their Spotify and Apple profile. That's such a small but big thing. How many times have you released a song and the person you released it with gave you their name? You put it in the distro and it doesn't show up right. And then that person's like, yo, that's not me. They've solved for that. They have the ability to clear covers, which I think from a strategy standpoint for a lot of singers, putting out cover songs early is a great way to build your audience. It works for American Idol. It works for X Factor. There's a reason they do that. So like if you're an independent artist and you're a singer, before you worry about your first EP or first album, I would say, working with a distro where you can clear cover songs and putting out cover singles would be really cool. And then they have an auto payout feature, like a split feature, where if we work on a record, I can invite you and you get paid royalties directly from them without having to wait for me to tell you how much the song made. I feel like those three things alone are worth it. And they've got great support. Anytime we've had an issue, we send an email, we get a response. The reason we left one of the other ones, I won't say their names, is we had an issue with a record. We emailed them, no response, followed up, no response, and then it became an issue. So I feel like you need a really good distro. Now with AI, things have changed as far as like content and graphics. So I'll say like take some time to learn how to create your own graphics and content with the new Chat GPT update. What you can do with a design and like creating flyers and assets, the game has changed forever. If you
I
don't know
know.
what I'm talking about, just YouTube it. but like learn how to create your own assets. What is an asset? Like new single coming soon. Shout out to Audio Mac for putting me on this playlist. Powered by Two Laws. Like how to create those assets that let people know your music's out and show appreciation to your partners. And then I would say a good project management tool. We use Notion internally, and Notion with an N, to keep track of like data and like information and to share like notes and ideas. And when we take calls and we take call notes, we put them in there. But you could use Monday, you could use Trello, you could use Asana. I would say someone on your team, right? If it's not you, the artist, should start learning how to keep track of a project management skills. A lot of this stuff you can learn with YouTube. A lot of stuff you can learn on 24/7 Artists. We teach this for free. But I would say like those three things are kind of the base, if nothing else. So I'm not going to go into like, obviously you should have a social media account and all of that. But like, I think you have a good distro for damn sure. And I would say like, if nothing else, a great project tool that you can kind of track your, again, like if we work on a song together, how am I keeping track of the lyrics? How am I keeping track of your IPI number? How am I keeping track of deadlines and like dates, due dates, right? All of those things have to be stored somewhere. And that's the business of music. When you sign to a label, that's what they're doing behind the scenes for you. If you're not signed to a label, that's what you should be doing for yourself.
Right. Man, now you dropped a lot of gems in there. And side note, I have no correlation to this company at all, but I love Notion.
Mm-hmm.
Like Notion's very helpful to use. A few people commented also again via YouTube. Universal King said, "Wow, amazing." He was saying that to you describing the feature that you guys have for the finance. Rubber Band said, "Oh, cool." Again, talking about the features. And then Swanky on YouTube say creating assets is key.
Yo, Swanky, what up? One of the dopest producers I know. Got to shout him out because he's one of the people that's doing it right. And he understands, right? Like for the young producers out there, when you are in the grind, building your name, working with multiple artists, right? A tool like Notion is what I would use to just keep track of like all the songs I've shared, like keeping track of all the links that I've sent out, keeping track of the people I need to follow up with for payments if I'm getting money on the back end, right?
Yeah.
Like those are the things that, when done well, just even keeping track of your information, right? Like we have a section in our platform where you can just store like your IPI number and your business info so you can copy and paste it. Because when you do business, you just have to be prepared for like, all right, we're working on this record. I got to go register it. Hey, send me your info so I can go register the song. You don't want to be looking throughout emails to find when you got your BMI number or when you got like what's your mailing address for your business or what, like have all that in one place so you can be ready for the opportunities. And Swanky is one why I shout him out because I did business with Swanky on a record recently and he was like on it. It was beautiful to be like, yo, need the info to go register the song. And like 30 minutes later, I had an email with everything.
Shout out to Swanky. I love that. I actually just met him as well. That's so cool. Let's see. Impulse is commenting from X. He said, "Is Notion an app?"
It sure is. So Notion is an app on, I want to say iOS and Android, but you also can use it on your web browser, which a lot of our teammates use it. They have a free version that limits to the number of things you can do, but it's a great way to start. And then they have a paid version, and then we use a team version for our company. So as you and your team grow, I would say like if you have a manager or if you have a coordinator, having folks just kind of like brush up and get really good with Notion will make your life a lot better, I feel like.
Yeah. Last one. And then
check, so that lets you know how good it is. I never from them.
Yes. Last one, and then I'm gonna go back to my questions. Is from YouTube. Nicole says, "Are y'all hiring? I'll do anything."
Be careful with that phrase. That's how I started. I'll do anything. I was making food runs in the cold and the rain. We are hiring soon. We actually just hired a few key positions, and we got another round of hiring that'll happen at the end of the summer. Just follow us, 24/7 Artists, 247 Artists. We post our hirings. And yeah, we've got like 3 or 4 positions we're hiring for, both remote and in Atlanta.
Oh, lovely. Yep, we gotta chop that up. That's a great clip. Okay, now can you Or actually, no, you ended up answering that one. Okay. So, with so many platforms out there, how do you help artists figure out which tools are worth investing the time and money?
Great question. So what we do with most artists when we're onboarding is we help them set out like 1 to 5 year goals, with the 1 year goal kind of being where we focus. But that 5 year goal, right? I saw a clip where J. Cole said, "You got to have a dream that's so big, like it scares you, like it's got to be unimaginable." So you go there, like, I want to sell out the biggest venues. I want the #1 record in the world. I want to be like, you got to have the big 5 year goal. But then the 1 year goal should be really attainable. And based on that 1 year goal, the first thing I try to get artists to do is focus, right? So if you're like, I want to put out 3 EPs, I want to do 3 merch drops, I want to tour US, and like, it's like if you've never done anything and then you want to do everything in the first year, that's unrealistic in any profession. And
Right.
so, how do we get you to focus in on one of those goals? And then, based on that goal, what tools do we need to use to service that goal? If you're more music release focused, then obviously getting really good at like recording, mixing, mastering, distribution, file management is probably the tools that we'll focus on. If you're more merch focused, then maybe it's like design and like, Shopify setups, right? If it's touring focused, maybe it's more like getting you a DJI and getting you an account with Chartmetric and
Indie on
bands
them.
account or something or any like, right, like that's the it's like it's all it is no one size fits all. Like, what's your focus? How do we build around that focus?
Are there any tools out here that you feel like are like completely underrated, like people are sleeping on?
From an artist standpoint, I would say we're already going to check Two Loss off. We're going to check 24/7 artists off.
I was gonna say, I felt like you about to shameless plug yourself again, but that's okay.
Check Notion off. I'm gonna check those 3 off because I've mentioned it.
Yeah.
I would say, and it's going to be a weird one for most people. We use a tool called Superhuman. Superhuman is an email tool that does a couple of things. One, it's a great way to keep your inbox at zero, meaning, like, before I use Superhuman, I'd have 3,000 emails in my inbox because
Mm.
I get so many emails I couldn't even manage going through them, and I'd miss a lot of important things. And when you're an artist, especially early on, but even as you grow, missing those opportunities is like a death wish. So, like, just being really good at like responding to emails and how to reply. Like, it has a great AI feature where I can type bullet point ideas of how I want to respond to something, and it will convert it into an email for me using AI. So
Oh
if you
wow.
send me an email like, "Yo, you let's collab, I want to work," and I'm like, "All right, so I want to acknowledge that I want to work, but I want to make sure I get paid, but I don't want to sound too pushy or greedy." I could literally type those 3 things, and then it will write the email for me in my voice. So Superhuman is a great tool. Again, they're not paying us, but I just feel like a lot of times folks focus so much on the music related tools that they're missing out on the things that make your life easier. And the goal is to make your life as easy as possible so you can do the music. So I'd say Superhuman is definitely one for sure. Another one I got to shout them out is High Note. High Note has a great sharing app where if I want to share music with either fans and get like real time feedback, or how we use it if you want to share with collaborators and get like, yo, should we use this hook or this hook? Or should we, use these strings or these strings? Like, I can send you a file, I can highlight a section, and I can ask you a question on the file. And when you get it, you can reply to the question as my collaborator. And I just feel like in this now global creative space where the reality of you being in the room with the people you're creating with isn't like it was 15 years ago, you've got to use tools that lean into that. And I feel like High Note does a really good job from a collaboration standpoint of like, I can send you a file and we can have a true back and forth collaboration in real time or over time with a powerful tool. So shout out to the team at High Note. Um, they are on our dashboard if you want to try them out. I think there's a free trial link, um, because I use it. Like any tool that I recommend, I pay for and I use.
That's dope. I'm definitely gonna check those out actually. Now let's get into the conversation of community. 24/7 Artist places a big focus on peer-to-peer support. How important is community when it comes to simplifying your journey as an artist?
Oh, it's everything. It's why it's at the core of what we've always done. I told you I learned at a studio space where the trade-off was I'm gonna do this work and then y'all gonna teach me the creative and the business, right? And there was a sense of community that came with that. And then as I learned, I would bring in my people and be like, yo, I'm gonna teach you what I'm learning. And they would teach me what they're learning. So like before we ever did our tour, when Wale and them would come back from the road, I'd be able to sit with the musicians and be like, yo, tell me about the tour. And they would tell me the pros and the cons. Like that's a $1 million conversation. Like, yo, if you ever go on tour, just think about this. Like, if you ever go on tour, don't do this. I would be able to sit with the tour manager and get a different perspective. I'd be able to sit with the artist and get a different perspective. I'd be able to sit with the tech and get a different perspective. So in that physical space back in the day, we would sit and exchange our war stories, and that's how you would get sharper. Also, the relationships. When they go on tour, they'd be like, oh, if you ever in this city, let me introduce you to my homie or homegirl. And then now I'm on tour, I'd be like, yo, can you introduce me? I'm about to be in this city. Like that community aspect is if an intro comes from someone that I know and trust, I'm going to take the time to go through that and help that person out a little different than if it's
Yeah.
just on the internet being like, yo, help me out. Like, because you get so many of those, how would I know who to help and how to help? So
Right.
those are the two things that, like, having seen it firsthand, like our success was definitely tied to community. That we push for that, and anyone in our community will tell you this. Like, one of the things we say is like, don't worry about leveling up. Like, obviously, you're here and you're thinking, if I could get on with the person above me, I'm going to be good. But what I've seen and what I've experienced is the people who were where I was when I was just intern, and then assistant manager, and then studio manager, and then studio owner, and then business. The people who were where I was here leveled up with me. And so
Mm,
now when I make a call to the person I've known for 15 years, they're not an intern anymore. They're now head of A&R, or they're VP, or they run their own business, or they're a decision maker, or they're just super plugged, or they just a homie and they go and post it on their socials because they rock with me. And
yeah.
that's love too. So like I think that part people don't get to see, which is like if you do this long enough and you are good to people over the way in your community, the power of that community exponentially grows. It's not one to one. It's like 1 to 5 to 20 to 100 as far as the impact of your community.
You are dropping gems. Yes.
Go.
Your story is actually really inspiring. Swanky commented from YouTube and said, and a lot of time the knowledge is worth way more than the immediate ask.
Almost every time.
Yep. Okay, and then one more before I get to my question is what does the future of 24/7 community building look like? Any upcoming activations for 2025? Any thoughts of how the global 24/7 community can connect in person?
King Cooley trying to get me to put all the secrets out. All right. So so we have our community platform. We use a platform called Circle. We chose that because you can use an app and it's global. So we're definitely expanding. We have a team member we just hired called Sam, based out in LA. He's our community manager. Full time, his job is to engage and grow the community. Sam is an artist and he ran marketing for one of the biggest music companies in the world. So he understands both sides of the business. And we're working on everything from, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, my team's gonna kill me, but like we got an online beat battle series coming with cash prizes. We got songwriting competitions. We got some stuff we cooking up with Two Lost. I'm not gonna share, but a lot of things to encourage that collaboration globally. I'm an African-born creator, so although I live in America, I go back and visit Liberia and Ghana often, and the amount of talent on in the continent is second to none. And I just feel like it's untapped still today, even with Afrobeats killing. There's so much talent on the continent. So one of the things and one of our co-founders is from El Salvador, and he says the same thing about El Salvador. So one of the things I'm really excited about is when we do these global competitions and collaborations and activations online and in person, how we can start connecting folks from DC to Ghana, El Salvador to Liberia, Germany, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, and have people creating globally, but creating the right way. So creating and doing legal and navigating the craziness of like registering songs with someone in a different country and paying
Right.
out people across, the ocean. So that's the future for us. It's very community focused. For those of you who rocked with us, I know King Cooley's been with us for a while. You guys have seen a snippet of it with some of our like online workshops and in-person activations and songwriting camps. We're amplifying all that over the rest of this year and beyond.
That is beautiful. That's so beautiful. Seriously. I'm big
Hey,
on community, so I admire those who pour into it. Um, what is an example of an artist who have leveled up their career using the resources and mentorship that your community provides?
there's a list, but I would say the one that we're most known for is Manny Wells. Manny
Oh, yes, a great one.
So Manny Wells literally started his career. We had a grant program, and Manny Wells was one of the recipients. We had a list of recipients over the years, and of all of those recipients, Manny was the only person to get a perfect score. We had guest judges. We weren't allowed to judge. So we had guest judges come in from Grammy winning to superstars to journalists to artists, and Manny got a perfect score. When he was done with his grant week, which was a week in our studio, he created. We did music business workshops. We got him signed up for Grammy, PRO, sound exchanges, all that. He just never left, and he would come to the studio every day and be like, "Yo, boss, I'm here. What I got to do? What I got to do?" And we were in the time getting ready to expand, and he again, right place, right time is God's timing. He was like, if I quit my job today, I just need 30 days in the studio and I'm going to make the best music possible. And we were looking for an artist to kind of like show as an example of what we could do when we supported an artist the right way. And I was like, all right, you got 30 days. And he took a little bit longer, maybe like 34 days, but his very first EP he did in that 30 days. We toured that EP. We went on a road with Jadena and did a 20-city tour. We put out merch. We did brand partnership deals. And over the years, we've stayed on as like big bro, big sis, like mentors to many. But he's an example of an artist who's learned the business, who's been patient, and who's applied it at every level. Starting with his first vision board he did with us to like today, where he's now Grammy winning and touring and can't walk the streets with him anymore because it's, oh my God, you're Manny Wells. Like he's an example to me of like an artist who he leveled up, and I got to give him credit because it's been 10 years. Like that's no exaggeration. We did that program 2015, 2016 with Manny, right?
Wow.
We have a son who just no 2014, 15. Our son turns 10 this year, and Manny was at the studio the year he was born. So that's
Mhm.
like that's how I measure it. And to see him now like literally sell out a US tour independent, and he's paying his managers and he's paying his band members and he's creating tech writers and he's putting together proposals and I just like I'm amazed. I look at it and I'm like, man, if we can help 1,000 people do what we did with you, that would be like, that's it. We've done it. So he's definitely the one. We've helped a lot of people in various ways, but Manny, we're still directly connected to. And as long as he will have us, we will continue to support.
Yo, so beautiful. I love that. I really do. And I'm a fan of Manny, like
Hey,
big fan. You've helped guide a lot of artists, like you said. What advice would you give to new artists looking to build their brand and business at the same time?
anyone who knows me already knows or should know what I'm going to say. Start with a vision board. If
Mm,
you do not have a vision board, it's really hard to get a sense of direction, right?
mm,
One of the hardest things, especially for artists, because you are creative and because we have the ability to do so much, is it can be hard when everything looks good. So when you have a vision board, it helps you make better decisions, right? That's that 1 year, 5 year exercise I was talking about. If you
mhm.
don't have a clear vision of where you want to be in 5 years for yourself, before you worry about what song to put out, what camera to buy, what artist name to call yourself, before you worry about any of that, just take a plain piece of paper. You don't got to do it all fancy. You can use Canva if you know how to do, but literally just start writing down and then like in real time, be like, I sell out Madison Square Garden. I sell out a global tour. I work with the biggest artists in the world. I work with, and be very specific, I work with Pharrell. I work with Beyonce. I work with whoever you want on your list. How you live, who you with. I have a manager I can trust who da da da. Like literally write it out. And then once you have that, now you just reverse engineer it. Most people skip that first step. So if you're not clear and you're just like, man, I'm just trying to get on, the problem is the universe will get you on. It's just like it may not be what you think. And I've seen a lot of people who, in other people's eyes, they've gotten on, but it's so far from what success looks like in their eyes that they end up being miserable. And I've met a lot of miserable celebrities in our studio. And when you're in a safe space where people can open up and you sit and talk to these people that you grew up like, oh my God, you're this person. And then 30 minutes later, you're like, yo, you're miserable. It's like, it's because they realized they didn't start with a clear vision of what success looked like. So they went 100 miles an hour, but they went in the wrong direction. And the problem with that is once you go in the wrong direction, now you got to crawl your way back out of it. You don't get to start back at zero. And that's like, having the wrong deal, having the wrong team, having the
Yeah.
wrong everything. So you want to understand like how to brand yourself or what genre or what, like, do the vision board. And then every time you make a decision, just look at the vision board and say, do I see a clear line from this thing that I want to do now to that vision board? And if you don't do it.
Gems.
Go.
No, for real. Was my okay. How do you help artists speak the same creative language with their teams like you do with the vision boards? Like, how do you connect that?
It's a great question. So the first thing we did with 24/7 artists was we launched with education. And the reason we did that was that actually is one of the biggest issues I've seen in the industry is not just artists and their teams, but I think the industry at large, we use these words and these phrases and it means different things to different people. And a lot of confusion and cross ups come because of that. And so one is getting everyone to learn through the same channels, which is why we wanted to build 24/7 artists, is like if you all go to the same place to learn and then your connected community is learning in that same place, you're going to reduce the risk of like a phrase or an approach being different. But I would also say too is like, don't be afraid to ask questions. I learned this again from my wife, right? I used to assume a lot. I used to just assume people thought like I thought. So I would communicate and just move on to the next thing, assuming that they were filling the gaps with how I was thinking or would think. Come to find out, most people don't think like I think. And a lot of the frustrations that happen in business came from me assuming those gaps were being filled with the same approach. So I would say don't be afraid to ask questions is number two. Like, hey, making sure we're on the same page that this is due Friday, 5 p.m. Oh, damn, dude, I thought you meant Friday midnight. Oh, I'm glad you said something. Like something as small as that could be why you like, yo, we didn't get the grant because we applied too late. And you have, when we did our grant program, the 2 days that were the busiest days for us was the first day we announced the grant and the day after the grant was expired. And it was without fail. The first day, everyone's excited. The go-getters, they go get to it, and then it kind of trickles. The day after, I get about 400 emails. Oh, bro, I tried to send it, but yo, my manager said he was going, but, and it's like, yo, you wait till the day after. Like you had, it was like a 90-day process. And like you had 90 days to get it in. And the 91st day, you hit me to say you tried. Like, so that to me is like, just don't ever assume.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. Sorry, I'm in a studio. Oh, sorry. Somebody from YouTube actually had a really good question before I go into my next one. They said, "How do you feel about The Artist's Way?" You know that book is trending right now a lot.
It's moving. I'll
Yeah.
say this: it's a good book. I love it. With all books, because I refer books. I've referred that book and a few others. I'm always excited about what people do after, right? Like I could give you 5 books right now that have changed my life, but they changed my life because I was in a position to be ready to move. I've also read books that like, if I don't read them at the right time or my spirit's not ready for it, I read it, I'm motivated in that moment, and then like I just go back to doing the same stuff that I was doing before. So I love it. I think like anytime you can read a book that's going to help level you up, enlighten you, inspire you to take action, do it. But I'm always more connected to like, all right, so what did you do after reading that book? Like when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was 20 years old and that book changed my trajectory. I became an entrepreneur because that book answered a question I didn't even know I was trying to ask, which is like, what else is there other than this? Like, I know I can go get a 9 to 5. I know I can go get a career, but it doesn't feel right. But I don't know what else there is. Someone gave me that book and at the right place, right time again. When I read it, I was like, oh, like there's a world where like you can put money to work for you and you can like use your skills and build a business and like that's possible.
Yep.
So like that book changed my life. I've given that book to no lie 100 people. I don't think 100 people quit their jobs and went and started businesses as a result because they might not have been in the right place. So that's going to be my answer to most books. I do like The Artist Way, but I'm always inspired by what did you do as a result of reading that book.
While we're on the topic of money, you started with $800 and eventually built a business valued at $20 million. What mindset shift helped you going from survival to scaling in the music industry?
Uh, I'll keep it real with you. It was frustration in that, like, the first 5 years of business, I don't know if anyone worked harder than our team. Like, we worked around the clock nonstop. And we were so tired and we were so broke. Like, we made a lot of money, but we didn't have anything in our pockets or in our bank accounts. We put every dollar back into the business. Every dollar, literally. Like, we were eating ramen noodles and we're like depositing $15,000 checks. Like, it was the craziest thing of like, yo, when you do your taxes, you see how much you make, but like it doesn't, like, I don't feel like I'm making that.
Feeling
Like,
it, yeah.
I'm making that, but like what's happening?
Yeah.
And so I sought out a mentor because I was like, I need to find out how people do this the right way. Because again, when you start a business, unless you around people who started a business, you don't know what you don't know. And so I found a mentor who, was doing the thing. They had a big business. They were multi-millionaire. They built their business over 20, 30 years, I think like 25 years. And I was able to pick their brain. And I was blessed enough to sit. I was a fly on the wall. I was able to sit and see how they moved, how they conducted team meetings, how they planned. And I was able to see like, oh, they use their lawyer for this and their accountant does this. And oh, they don't do this work. They outsource this. And it started to shift how I moved. And then our business model started to shift. And that's when we're like, okay, well, think smarter, not harder, work smarter, not harder. Like, how do we expand our business and how do we grow? And then we started building a business model with our old company is what really grew our valuation was like, we have something really special here that makes good money. We know how to scale this 100 times around the world. And that's what created our valuation was like, oh, a house DC and a house New York and a house Lagos and a house UK. Like, oh, you're sitting on something that could be a game changer. And when we sold the company, I want to align with this too, because it's really important. We sold it right before that deal closed. So to our partners and to the people who were coming in, when I say the deal closed, like we were getting ready to branch out and create a house network globally. And we had bought in partners that were going to basically fund the building of this studio network that had this connected community vibe and feel. Think of like a WeWork for artists. And we had fallen out of love with the business because the people we were working with, I think, were just aligned differently. Like their goals and what they were looking for out of it was not the same as ours. And so when we walked away at a crazy valuation, like it was like 19 point, whatever it was, $20 million is what we call it. But like when we walked away at that valuation, they thought we were absolutely crazy because they were like, yo, like if you stay and you have the equity you have in this company and it does a fraction of what we think it has, you could be a stupid multi-millionaire. Like just ride it out. And everything in us told us, nah, this isn't where we're supposed to be. No, we've taken this where we need to take it. We got to go do something else. We sold the company March 1st, 2020. You got to understand, like we sold a physical space brick and mortar model. And 2 weeks later, the world shuts down and no one's looking to do anything in-house. If we had kept on and said we were going to build a studio network that everybody was going to be making music together in these physical spaces, pandemic, we would have been crazy. Like what, how do you even sell? Like you can't do that. Yeah. We sold. And then now it's like, all right, without a brick and mortar, how many artists in the world can we help? How many managers? How many A&Rs? How many producers? How many people are trying to start a record label? How many people are trying to start a production company? Like, and then it wasn't limited to like, oh, a couple 100,000, like I said. And now it's like, yo, there's millions of people that we can help. And we don't need the brick and mortar to do it.
That alignment and timing is dope. It's like a shout out to God, man.
Shout out to God.
So after working with people like Kendrick Lamar, being a part of To Pimp a Butterfly, how do you stay so grounded and like stay focused on artist development, with like new artists?
I get a rush from helping people do dope shit. Like it's my drug of choice. Like I really enjoy seeing someone level up. And as much as I enjoy the big names we've worked with and the big accolades that come with that, and it's definitely cool. I never want to downplay that. What really makes me happy is when I can tell you, like, yo, I saw Manuel sell out his first show. Like I remember when we couldn't get 20 people to come to a free event at Morgan University, I think it was. It was one of the Baltimore schools. We couldn't get 20 people to come to a free Morgan State, free show. To we just sold out our first 400 tickets at Union Stage, and then we just sold out Howard Theater at 1,200 tickets, and then we just sold out a tour. Like seeing that level up and that progression fills my cup 100 times more. So I would say because I enjoy that, that's really what like fills my cup. I'm always searching for that way to help people like level up and people like build. And then I just like working with people who like working with me. I think the other thing too is like I made a decision very, very early on when I learned how the business worked that I wasn't going to chase everyone to try to get beats to them as a producer. Like I've seen that hustle, I've seen that game, and I've been in the room when the people who are selecting the beats are making the decisions and talking about the people who are sending the beats, and then see how they treat them after they take off and now they hot and now they try. Like I don't like that fake shit. It's not for me. So being exposed to that super early on, I was like, I don't know if I want to be a producer in that sense. Like I'm not really trying to be the guy chasing everyone around trying to get you on my songs. Not that I still cook up, still make records, but if I make a record with you, it's because I really rock with you. It's because like I enjoy you as a person and I enjoy
Yeah.
working with you.
And that's when the best creativity, like
Oh,
that's how it flows.
every time.
I just gonna hit this comment section and starting to fill up. Oh, Swank says, "Man, I hope y'all listening. These are gems."
Tell them Swank.
He said, "Chase, don't build." Ozzy P says, "Dang, great timing. Congratulations."
God. Dang, y'all on
Uh,
Twitch too? Y'all everywhere.
yes. Doc EC from YouTube says, "Thanks for sharing.
Hey,
Moco was cool."
Sherwood.
Sure.
Sherwood. Sherwood. I broke a couple
Um,
records at Sherwood on the track. So shout out to Sherwood.
love that. All right, and then my last question. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm wrapping your ear off. This episode's longer than they usually are, but this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you see? Because obviously, well, let me not say obviously, but we've been seeing shifts in the industry, and like traditional labels aren't as popular anymore. Everybody is going obviously like the independent route, the distribution route. Where do you see like the indie lane being 3 to 5 years from now?
If it goes the way we're building for it to go, I'll paint a picture and you can save this so that 3 to 5 years from now, either I'm gonna look crazy or I'm gonna look really smart.
Okay.
I see a couple of things happening. So I'll start with the plus. I think there will be more successful, sustainable artists than we've ever seen, meaning artists who can pay their bills and make a living doing their art, not just in music, but across the board. I just think there's going to be so much consumption and so many ways to generate money with what's consumed that an artist can make the equivalent of I can pay my bills, pay my car note, pay my health insurance, and do what I love full time. I think that's a plus. I think a result of that will be more people getting involved in part ownership or royalty streams with artists, whether it be super fans, as people call them, general fans, investors, right? I think the same way people go crazy over now, like the ability to go to a Robinhood app and invest in Apple or invest in Amazon. I think the same way people would be like, yo, Dochi's hot and I want to invest in Dochi, right? I feel like that future is coming very quickly, which then means that the labels, which have already kind of shifted, but I think the pendulum will swing, the labels will recognize if money isn't the issue anymore, our job is to make the best talent possible. And so not just the majors, but I really do think the boutique, the agency style, the LVRN approach of like, or TDE approach of like, yo, we gonna get our niche sound, our niche group, our niche cluster, and we're going to develop the hell out of them and make them the best they can be, whether it's performance, whether it's music, whether it's brands and other ways, whether it's dope merch lines, whether it's all of the above. Our agency is going to really develop that talent. And I think that bridge between like the artists who are kind of like, I'm really talented, but I need support, and the labels who are like, we really want to help artists who need support, will get smaller. I just think there'll be more pockets of labels with 5 artists, 6 artists that are kind of like self-sustaining. And I'll say the downside or the bad side, and I'd be a fool if I didn't bring it up, is that AI is going to take a bulk of the attention. When I say AI generated songs, AI generated content. And the way I'll use it, I'll use the movie, because I think we've seen it with films, and usually music follows films. If you think about the blockbuster movies that do really, really well, like the big ass movies that do really, really well, they usually have some kind of CGI, computer generated graphics. They usually have some kind of massive special effects budget, and they usually have some massive superstars, right? So you got to compete with Marvel, and you got to compete with Disney if you're trying to make a massive hit, and it's probably not going to happen, right? Minecraft, biggest movie of the year, 2 big artists, big video game franchise. So you as an independent filmmaker, you're not competing with Minecraft.
Right.
I think on the flip side, Netflix, who isn't tied to the theaters, who isn't tied to the traditional model, is creating superstars and superstar IP, meaning like Stranger Things didn't exist and now it's its own thing that can be its own thing. And all of those Netflix original shows that are now these series that can go on forever and ever and make these stars don't require the old way to be successful. They don't have to go to the movies. They don't have to be on demand. They can be successful in their own world. I think that's going to happen for artists as well, where right now, Spotify, Apple, that's it. I think you'll have these pockets of other things that are like, yo, you could pop directly on an Even. Even's another platform. I'm sorry I didn't mention them earlier. You got to know about Even, but you could pop on Even and make $100,000 a year and not even touch a Spotify, not compete with the biggest artists in the world, because the ecosystem exists where you only need 2,000-3,000 people to support you in a year to make enough for you and your team to eat. And that, I think, is the next 3 to 5 years. And if we do our part, we should be preparing as many of those artists to thrive in that environment as possible.
Yeah, I can see that. And I love your note about AI as well. And to your last point about just having a certain amount of people lock in with you and support your career, I don't even think we really realize like how powerful numbers are. Like we have right now, I'm looking at it, we have about 50 people watching this, and then we'll have people listen back later. But it's like 50 people in the room listening
Not
to us have a conversation. There's a lot of people.
small.
That is a lot of people. And then I'm just gonna do one last question from the people, and then I swear I'll let you go. I know I said that already,
Yeah, thank
but
you for that, Nyla.
no, of course. Okay. This is from YouTube. King Cooley says, can you share any insight on the role of and potential competition created by AI as it pertains to sync? How can songwriting stay ahead of computer generated compositions? That's a good question.
So we're actually working on this in real time, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. This isn't a thing. This is happening. There are 2 groups as it relates to AI created content. There's a group that will just create what we call, let's say, bootleg content, meaning like they source, for AI to create something, it has to study that thing and then create what it thinks would be the same as it. So if I wanted to create a King Cooley song, the best way to do that would be to take all of King Cooley's songs, train an AI model to understand what makes a King Cooley song a King Cooley song, and then ask it to make something like a King Cooley song, right? That's no different than what we do in the industry. When Sony signs Beyonce and Beyonce does well, Warner and Universal are trying to find their Beyonce. Like that's just nature. AI just does it faster and better than humans can.
Mm.
But that second school, I think, is going to say, we want to make a King Cooley song. But what we're going to do is source King Cooley's data and ask for permission to use King Cooley's data. And anything that we make using King Cooley's data, we will pay a percentage of that to King Cooley. That's the future of AI content, right? I think there's going to be a push for that. And once we get over the initial, like, oh my God, it's AI, that's going to be where things land, which is like, it's like the copyright world. Before we had a copyright system, people went crazy creating knockoffs. after we have a copyright and trademark system, people still, you can go in New York right now and buy a knockoff Louis Vuitton bag. There are a lot of people there are more people walking around with knockoff Louis Vuittons than real Louis Vuittons. Louis
Yes.
Vuitton still makes billions of dollars. So like understand that the model exists where both will happen. But what I do see happening, King Cooley, is the reason we built our platform, the reason we built our split sheet tool, our legal tool, our metadata tool is the artists and songwriters who understand the power of ownership and having all your business in order will be prepared when those platforms say, hey, we want to license your content to create AI content, and we will pay you for anything we use. And those small royalty checks will start adding up the same way that sampling changed for hip hop. If you got sampled and then your record became a big record, you ate for the rest of your life because 20 years after you made your song, some kid sampled your record, you cleared it, got 50% of the publishing, and then that became a number one record. And I mean, in real life, Nelly, Hot in Here, sampled a go-go record that put Chuck Brown back in the game. Like that's how you build. Like if Chuck Brown's manager, shout out to Tom Goldvogel, didn't understand the power of publishing, and Pharrell samples Chuck Brown's record, and Nelly's Hot in Here becomes a smash, a diamond record, 10 million copies sold, real money made, and they didn't know to collect that royalty, Chuck's not making any of that money. So it's just that, like my mentor Paul Miner told me something, and I've seen it now. I've been around long enough to tell y'all, there's nothing new under the sun. If you feel like you've missed the boat, just study what happened after that, and that's where you are right now. So just study the history of the music and the entertainment business, and you'll see where we are right now. And I'm just giving y'all that game to be like, the reason we built this platform, go to 247artist.com, learn, use these tools, is because in the next 3 years, when there's a random young artist who's like, yo, I make 10,000 a month because my 300 songs make me this. And like, don't say I didn't tell you. I'm telling you now.
Yeah, you do that. I gotta give you a standing ovation. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Nyla. I appreciate you and the Two Lost team. Shout out to you and Dame and the rest of the team for asking me to do this, because I definitely, I'm a huge fan of y'all's. Y'all, that goes without saying. And we got more cooking up with y'all. I don't know if Dame's going to allow me to say it, so I'm going to just keep it quiet. But we got something cooking up with Two Lost that I think our communities will love.
Beautiful. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. And then before we wrap, can you just shout out your Instagram so people know where to follow you, but then also 24/7 Artists?
So y'all see my name, YUDU GRAY Junior, JR, Yudu Gray Jr. That is me everywhere. 24/7 Artists. It's simple. 247 Artists with an S plural everywhere. Follow those two accounts. I will do a better job of dropping gems. Thank God I have things like this. We can chop this up, and I should have a bunch of content from this. I do horrible with the content, but we've got one of our goals. I just want to share. We want to build the largest music business platform in the world. We have an AI tool launching that's going to have thousands of hours of training from industry experts from all walks of life, so that you can go to one place and ask and get real guided information. If nothing else, just like learn. Just come and learn. If you don't got to pay a shit, come for free and learn. Because I can tell you the educated artists last longer than the non-educated artists.
Amen to that. This was a ceremony for real. I learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to joining 24/7's community as well.
Thank you, Nyla. We got to get you on one of our workshops. I already know your story. I know all about it. So like, you'll be on and add value.
I can't wait. I can't wait to join. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Office Hours. We'll be back next month. Again, we scaled back because we're bringing in heavy hitter guests. So Yudu, thank you for being the first of our relaunch.
Let's go. Thank you, Nyla. Thank you, Two Lost.
Yes. Until next time, guys. Peace.